Good evening, Mayor. As you are aware, the mayor is not here, and either is the Mayor Pro Tem. So I am noting for the record that they are absent and that I will have the council entertain a motion to appoint a chair to start the meeting.
Councilmember Morrissey, I'd like to entertain a motion to appoint you as the chair, as the Mayor Pro Tem to chair the meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Please take over.
All righty, thank you. So we'll officially gavel this meeting to order. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And as is customary, I'll remind us all of our guiding principles in all of our actions this evening. Are we raising the bar? Are we honoring the past but not living in the past? Are we building positive connections with our community and outside partners? And is this decision-making process building a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community? Before we get to our agenda, I know that the mayor had asked in his absence for us to read our most recent press release that was dated March 3rd. The city has been informed that the Saints Car Club annual event, The Cruise, that has been hosted annually on the downtown waterfront has been canceled. The event organizers state that they cannot meet the city's safety requirements related to the road closure. The event holder's request is to allow cars to leave freely throughout the event while thousands of pedestrians are on the streets. As our neighbors in Gig Harbor experienced in 2024, as well as other incidents nationally have demonstrated, that combining moving vehicles and pedestrian traffic presents serious public safety concerns and can result in injury if not adequately addressed. Conversations with the city's insurance provider have affirmed the city's concerns are valid, that vehicle and pedestrian interactions need to be avoided during public events. Solutions have been offered by the city during multiple meetings with the event holder to mitigate these risks, but unfortunately a satisfactory resolution to these safety concerns could not be reached. While the city is saddened by the loss of this fabulous event, it is our paramount duty to protect and provide for the safety of our community. It is the hope of the city leadership to have additional conversations with the event organizers with the goal of continuing to host this popular annual event in Port Orchard. Port Orchard Mayor Rob Putansu, quote, "This is a very unfortunate outcome. However, the city's paramount duty is to provide for the safety of our residents and visitors. Allowing potentially unsafe conditions during public events is not a risk the taxpayers of Port Orchard and visitors should be asked to accept." End of our press release. Additional note here, please note that the Saints Car Club has not submitted their application and no denial has been made. I'll also say in the mayor's absence this evening and filling in on those shoes as a representative of council, we would like to hear anybody who has testimony on that during public comment today, but we want you to know that is the administration's decision. And while council is here to have that and provide counsel to the mayor, that's the mayor and the administration's decision. So with that, let's move into the rest of the agenda this evening, and that would be item number 2, approval of our agenda. Councilmember Rosa Pepe.
Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to make a change to the consent agenda.
You're going to make it easy on me tonight. Okay, go ahead.
Item H, excusal of Councilmember Diener for personal reasons.
That's a good one. Thank you, sir. We'll add item H to consent agenda, excusing Councilmember Diener for his absence this evening and why I get to sit in this chair instead of him as he is sick, and I did talk to him earlier. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Trenary. I'll call for a vote on that amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those approved, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. Are there any additional changes to this evening's agenda? Councilmember Rose Pepe.
Mayor Pro Tem Tem, I would like to move to the approval of the amended, the agenda as amended. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilmember Rose Pepe
Second.
and a second from Councilmember Benton. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. That does bring us to item number 3, our first of 2 citizen comment periods. We will invite anybody up to the stand here. Our lovely city clerk, Ms. Wallace, will have the light running for you there. You will get 3 minutes. When you're in green, that's when your 3 minutes have started. Is it 30 seconds at yellow? 1 minute at yellow, and your time will be ended when the light turns red. Please, when you approach the dais, identify yourself so that you can be recognized.
And Chair, I would just note that this is anything that is not related to the public hearing item tonight that's on the agenda. That is a separate matter.
You are correct. Thank you, Ms. Wallace.
I guess I'll be brave and go first. So my name is Sylvia Morgan, and I'm one of the owners of the Peninsula Bevco downtown here in Port Orchard. And we are struggling with the new permitting process with the city of Port Orchard. And unfortunately, my son Cody, who's the one that's been dealing with the issue, is not able to be here tonight. However, he's written a letter, and I would love to just read it to you at this time, if that's okay. So a little background on the project. We have recently started renting the space next door to us that used to be Crow's Curiosities with the intention of opening a banquet room so that we can serve large groups, because we get a lot of requests for large groups. And the only structural thing we really need to do is cut a hole in a non-weight-bearing wall so that customers and servers can flow freely back and forth. Similarly to what we did when we opened Bevco originally, we cut the same type of a hole. We don't need to do any plumbing or electrical or anything major, just cut a hole in the wall is all we wanted to do. And so now I'd just like to read to you Cody's comments, if you will. So he's written a letter. Dear council members, I am of the opinion that our Department of Community Development process is broken. I do not blame the employees there. I think they are great people. Rather, I blame the system that is in place. My position is based on my recent experiences compared to my past experiences with the Department of Community Development in Port Orchard. I would like to highlight the severity of the problem by using some facts. In my 7 years of owning a business in Port Orchard, I've only spoken at one other city council meeting back in 2019. When we first started doing commercial tenant improvements here, there was actually inspectors to talk to. They actually visited you in person and answered questions. If there were problems with your application, permit, or inspections, they would call you. When reviewing a project, they would visit the actual site. It never took more than 2 months to get a permit approved, and it was usually closer to 1 month. Comparing this previous experience to the one now, I would rate the current process as an F. Here are some of the facts to back up that rating. 1, I was told to apply online, only to find out 2 weeks later that I have done the wrong permit because the one I needed wasn't even available online. They had missed that one. Number 2, no one at the community development could answer any of my permit questions, or even if what I wanted to do would be allowed, because they hired a private consultant to review all of the applications. I was not allowed to have the contact info for the private consultant to ask them the questions either. No phone calls or emails were allowed. Therefore, it's been 3 months since I first applied. I haven't had one question answered to date. I don't know if the project will be allowed under the code or not, and I can't move forward with any direction. If this were 5 years ago, I believe we would have already completed the project. We were required to hire an architect for this project, and he would reflect these sentiments as well. My recommendation is to go away from the private consultant and hire 2 or 3 inspectors that can actually work in their community to get things done. You are risking the financial stability of your local business community as well as I'm sure many other projects. If that's not possible, would we be allowed to hire our own inspector who would put their stamp of approval and assure that we had done everything that meets the codes for this project? Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Anybody else for a public comment?
I'm Teresa Fox from Shorewood Drive in Bremerton, and I'm here to talk about the Saints Car Cruise. So you outlined the permit process and where you guys are at with that. I will say that my reading of the code says that the city clerk's office shall bring forth the application to the city council for approval when the event requires a city street or state highway closure. So my understanding is that you guys are the body that would approve that special event permit. Incorrect? Well, okay. At any rate, since the event seems to be held up in preliminary discussions with the city and the cruise, I would recommend that the city council get involved in this stage and get the process unstuck. On the surface, it seems that disallowing vehicle departures is no big deal, but in actuality, it is. That's an incorrect assumption. So the reasons that that is an incorrect assumption is because a few people need to be able to leave the event during the event. Elderly people who own the cars that participate in the event, they might have health problems. They might not be able to stay all day because they're disabled. Other folks travel specifically from across the state to this particular car show because of the beautiful location. They also come to support the Saints Car Club, and they may have to travel a long distance, and it takes time, so they don't want to stay all day long. The city municipal code hasn't changed. What has changed this year is city staff's interpretation of the application of the code. The mayor emailed me that the cruise can't meet the city's safety requirements. He also said that there is no specific code requirement, but that it's common sense for no longer allowing vehicle departures during this event because of what you mentioned, you know, terrorist activities, other situations. There's no hard data to support that. Vehicle departures can be safely accommodated by using staff escorts and high visibility clothing, radios, and printing on entrance materials that vehicles must be escorted out by staff. Or there's other methods. The track record of this event speaks for itself. No incidents have occurred in decades. You know, the cruises has their own liability policy for insurance purposes. When you guys are considering risk, consider the failure to issue a must-issue permit under the people's reserved right to public assembly and the liability that you guys are going to face from a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the city or against public servants individually if you don't approve the permit. So again, I would encourage the Saints Car Club to pursue their permit with you guys and get a denial, take it all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary, because you really can do this event safely and still allow vehicle departures, in my opinion. So I would encourage you guys to work with the Saints and keep this thing going for the benefit of the citizens and also for your downtown small businesses. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Fox. Anybody else for public comment? Van?
Good evening, City Council and Pro Tem Mayor. My name is Van Valist. I'm actually been in the business in this community since 1968. I was approached in 1987 to see if the city would welcome an event that we called the Cruise, and that was 38 years ago. In that time, there has never been an injury or even close to being an injury, period. The participants are pretty much self-policing. We don't allow any type of misbehavior. And again, I mean, you look at what's transpired in Port Orchard at this event. It's been billed as Kitsap County's largest one-day festival. It promotes a sense of civic pride. More importantly, today, it creates unity at a time where unity is sorely needed. There's so much division. This is something that brings the entire community together, and the community supports this. Not only that, if you look at the effect that denying this event to take place upon the waterfront, the effect it's going to have upon the businesses downtown, the restaurants, the shops, which generates tax revenue, which I think we all know where that goes, to you guys. And in that regard, I understand that the Saints have presented a solution to the cars that want to leave during the event by escorting them out, providing, safety for those spectators. I don't, it's a reasonable solution to what I consider to be a non-existent issue. I would hope that the city will reconsider and allow this event to take place as it promotes our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bliss.
Thanks, Van.
Anybody else for public comment this evening?
I know I've already spoken once, but I just wanted to add on to what Van was saying about the cruise. Just to put it from a business
I'm so sorry.
perspective.
We do have rules, and so I do have to say, if you can get it through somebody else,
Okay.
we are allowed one time.
Okay.
We will have a second bite at the apple at the end of
Okay.
today.
Right.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Hi, most of you know me, I'm Sarah Butler. I am here just on behalf of Speaking of Downtown. I am on the Port Orchard Waterfront Alliance, which was previously known as Port Orchard Bay Street Association, and I handle the beautification project of it, and my goal is to make this like when I grew up. I've lived here my whole life. I've gone to the cruise for the past 20 years. I am struggling right now to understand how we cannot come to a compromise on this situation. It builds, like Van mentioned, it builds community aspect. It brings in, for those businesses down there, we're struggling. And that's another thing to discuss is the whole permit situation. It's very difficult for our downtown Bay Street clients or people that are wanting to move in. I'm a realtor. I see it all the time. They're trying to do their permits, and the city makes it so difficult to want to have our town to grow, and it doesn't seem like it's behind it, to be honest with you. And this event serves thousands of people, thousands from all over the place. It brings that revenue. Our downtown is dying. There's only so many of us that can build it back up, and we really need to pull together and come for this event specifically because it brings in that revenue that our downtown merchants absolutely need. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Ms. Butler.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment, please come forward and identify yourself. Hearing none.
And just a
Yes,
reminder,
anyone online? Clerk
we would
Wallace.
just ask that they would raise their hand
Yeah,
if
okay,
they would like
thank you.
to speak.
If anyone online would like to give public testimony or citizen comment period, please raise your hand.
And for phone numbers, that's a *8.
Thank
To
you.
raise your
I'm not good at this. I don't know that. None, Ms. Wallace? Okay, we will close our first citizen comment period. Thank you. Next up is item number 4, consent agenda. Councilmember Chenary.
Mayor Pro Temp, I'd like to approve the consent agenda as written or as amended.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilmember Chenary.
Second.
And a second from Councilmember Rosapepe. Any discussion on consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The motion carries unanimously. We have no presentation this evening, but we do have a public hearing. So, this is Director Bond. I believe this is you. An ordinance adopting a new section 20.182.075 to the Port Orchard Municipal Code, adding a new definition for bedroom to POMC 20.184.010, and adjusting the park impact fee schedule. Director Bond.
Yes, good evening, council members, and I believe I heard Mayor Pro Tem Tim. Is that
I think that's what we're going with this evening. Well, I'm going to fly with it.
all right? In 2023, the state legislature passed 2 bills addressing housing that require changes to the city's park impact fee rate structure and to the municipal code. One bill, Senate Bill 5258, includes a provision codified in RCW 8202060 that requires that impact fees reflect the proportionate amount of new housing units based on square footage, the number of bedrooms, or trips generated in the case of traffic impact fees. The other new law that was passed was part of House Bill 1337 concerning accessory dwelling units. This bill required that cities may not charge impact fees on the construction of new ADUs that is greater than 50% of the impact fee that would have been charged on the principal unit. The city's Department of Community Development prepared an analysis of the alternative methods available under the law and provided proposed language creating a new Port Orchard Municipal Code section 20.182075 and adding a new definition to Port Orchard Municipal Code section 20.184010 to address the recommended methods and to ensure that the fees assessed ADUs comply with the law. The alternatives were reviewed by the City Council at the February 18th, 2024 work study meeting, at which time the City Council asked that an ordinance utilizing the per bedroom approach be brought forward for consideration. As written, the ordinance would set the park impact fee at $1,616.73 per bedroom, as recommended in the department's analysis. The proposed ordinance would take effect 5 days after publication, as is standard practice, but the new fee rate wouldn't take effect until July 1st, 2025, to allow the department time to update its forms, permitting system, website, and other materials. The rate study and fee alternative comparison is attached in your packet, and up to this point, I have not received any written comments via email, and so to my knowledge, we have not received comments yet, and the recommendation is to open a public hearing on the proposed ordinance. And then we can have discussion under the business.
Okey doke. As I understand this, Ms. Archer, I just gavel in our public hearing. It's not a motion of the council.
Correct.
Correct. Thank you. So here we go. We're going to call this public hearing open. Anybody wishing to address City Council and be part of the public hearing, please come up to the dais.
And just a reminder, there is a sign-up sheet, so if you want to have them come up now or call them by name, you can do that as well.
Okay. I believe the 3 people that were on this list were from earlier.
Call them anyway.
If there's anyone online who's wishing to comment on our public hearing, please raise your hand. And when you call in, you said *6, Ms. Archer?
Star 8.
*8, thank you. You see none, Ms. Wallace? Nope. Okay. Nobody else wishing to come? We will close this public hearing. That concludes our public hearings for this evening. Next up on our agenda are business item 7A. Adoption of an ordinance adopting a new section 20.182.075 to the Port Orchard Municipal Code, adding a new definition for bedroom to POMC 20.184.010, and adjusting the park impact fee schedule. Director Bond, would you have any more to add to this before City Council takes action this evening?
Nothing more to add other than a recommendation to approve the ordinance as presented.
Thank you, Director Bond. Do I hear a motion? Councilmember Warden.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve an ordinance adopting a new section 20.182.075 to the Port Orchard Municipal Code, add a new definition to section 20.184.10 to Port Orchard Municipal Code, adopting a new park impact fee schedule as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Warden, a second from Councilmember Fenton. Discussion. Councilmember Chang.
Yeah, I appreciate that this is not the most straightforward resolution because it's doing at least a couple things. And I agree and understand with what it's trying to do, which is changing the way that we calculate park impact fees and the ceiling on ADU fees. I think that makes perfect sense. I also read, I think this was a very well-written report from staff, and there were certain things that did concern me. For example, a part of the fiscal impact was saying that the proposed ordinance is designed to ensure that new revenues come in at the same levels as intended through the previous rate schedule. So under this new framework, housing units with more bedrooms than average would pay slightly more, while units with fewer bedrooms would pay less. Total revenue is not expected to change. And I know it's hard to predict what the revenue is going to be because we don't know how many permits we're getting in 2025. But what I was wondering about is if we took the number of permits that we got for 2024 and we applied the new rates that are on page 82. I think it's on page 2. Nope. This is page 79. I wasn't sure that we would get the same results, and my concern is only that with the new park impact fee rate schedule, we would bring in less, of course, than it would if it was changed. So what I did, which is on the sheet that I provided, is I plugged in what figures we had. We know the number of single-family dwelling units, and we know the bedrooms in these single-family dwelling units. So what I did was I first of all averaged the last 4 years. I don't know if you can find the page, Brandy. It's the handout that I brought. Anyway, oh, okay. All right. So in the bold lines on the left is information that I got from Nick. Thank you, Nick. And it's what we know, because we know how many bedrooms each of these houses have. We do not know how many bedrooms the multifamily have. So we permit them by apartment units, whether it's a single up to 3 bedrooms. So what I did was I averaged the units for the years that we had, and then I compared them at the current rate, the amount we would get, which is about 176,000. No, I'm misreading that, 1.7 million, excuse me. Then I multiply that against the 4-year rates and then the 2-year rates, just to see what the comparison would be. One thing that I noticed, and this is actually a question for Nick that you can answer easily, is that the table does not seem to have a rate for 6-bedroom houses. So in the case of the exercise here, I just applied the 5-bedroom house rate. And I know that we've only had an average of 3.5 6-bedroom houses over the last 4 years, but it did exist. And I thought, that's interesting. That's not actually on the rate sheet. So the proposed rate that's being provided would actually come up short about 17,000. And then I thought, well, 17,000, if you divide that by each unit that we're talking about, single-family dwelling house of 272. Are you following? Am I too fast? Okay. Let me know if I'm not making sense. So while that's not a great deal, that's like maybe $50 per house. 17,000 divided by 272 and a half. So I was wondering if there might be a rate that might better bring in revenues similar to what we've received, and that might be the 2-year totals. So I'm actually proposing that we go with a different rate per bedroom, not the 1616 that was proposed for 4 years, but another rate, maybe a slightly higher rate. And I don't know if those rates, Nick, that are presented, are those the only choices that we have?
No, you had 7 alternatives in the analysis that I provided you, and there are, I believe there were 4 different alternatives under the per bedroom approach. So I think that the 2 that you've presented here are probably the best 2, and I think the 2-year average is probably pretty close to the trend that we're likely to see going into the future. I also think that this is, we are essentially scaling our existing fee structure into this new fee structure using per bedrooms. And so I think actually erring on the side of charging less, not more, is probably safer just in terms of potential challenges to the calculation. I think we're less than 1/10 of 1%, according to your math here, from this thing being equal. And this table also doesn't include any multifamily units. So this is only the single family units. So there's a whole multifamily component for which we do not have the per bedroom data for the construction over the last few years without actually going through each plan and counting bedrooms, which is a huge time intensive process. So I think that erring on the lower side is less controversial potentially, but I think either one is safe for you to use. I think both of them scale. It just is using a different set of averages.
According to my math, it's actually 1% and not less than 1/10 of 1%. And I did wonder about the apartments, because I know we don't have the figures, but I was thinking if you look at a new apartment, and I probably should have called a couple up, we could probably extrapolate that 80% of them are 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, and singles, and maybe 20% are 3 bedrooms. I know that's a huge assumption. Given that the rates for the studio 1 and 2 bedrooms are lower than the current rate of like, I think it's $45.85, I think that the rates that we would bring in for apartments would also be a lot lower. And I couldn't do the math because we didn't have the figures, but extrapolating from that, I'm wondering like how comfortable is the council with like a 1% drop or maybe a 5% drop?
So I might just correct your quick math there if I'm looking at this right. It's 1.7 million that we bring in, that 1% at 17,000, I think is accurate. Is it not? 10% would be 170, 1% is 17. It makes it pretty quick and easy.
Yeah.
It's still just a little lower than that. You're doing it off the hip. Yep.
I haven't rechecked the math, and there's no commas in this number, so I'm squinting to see it.
I know,
Yep.
it's hard to read without
Yep.
commas.
So I think you're pretty close, but okay. I didn't hear a question in that, so I'm going to move to the next. Councilmember Rosa Pepe.
I know we talked about this, trying to keep the bucket, equal. And while I agree with you, Fred, that, we may be having a shortage at, some point in time, I believe that when we were briefed on this, we were going to say, hey, we're going to take a look at this over time because we can adjust this as we go. It's not one bite of the apple and we're done. So I'm more inclined to say, okay, we have an analysis. We may have a shortage, but it's something that we can adjust. So as opposed to going back and restudying and holding this up. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Councilmember Ward.
I also don't think, do you expect any more multifamily to be put up? I think we're pretty much
There's a
built
few
out.
projects that I thought might be dying on the vine that seem to have some life, maybe.
Legs on it.
So it is possible. I know one project with, I think, 196 units is going forward, possibly even before the July 1st deadline, so they would pay under the existing fee structure. But I don't know the exact timing of that project, and there's a few more that are showing signs of life that I thought might be dead.
Sure. I think $17,000 is basically, if 3 extra houses get built, makes up the difference. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and the rate that they're going up in McCormick right now, I mean, they're going to throw up 3 every other day right now, it seems like. But
Councilmember Trenary.
Well, I would agree with Councilmember Warden and Councilmember Rosa Pepe that we're, first off, for the public's knowledge, these fees are paid by the developers. They're not paid by our citizens currently in the city. They're not really, in my position, I don't really look at it as revenue because as development comes and goes, increases and decreases, these are the fees we're going to get. We were looking at this as an initial starting point and a change only because of what the state requires us to do at this point. And so we were trying to make it as consistent and as even as it's been in the past. Because we have a sunset on this essentially where we can go back and we can look at these fees down the road a couple of years and readjust if necessary, I believe that this is the best way to go, and I'll be voting in approval of this.
Anybody else? Because I get the last bite at the apple.
Oh, okay. You do or I do?
I can't give it until at the end.
Okay, no, I'd just like to add that I know the 1% is very low, and I didn't know if that was worth bringing up, except 1% is the amount that we vote every year on the property tax for the city. It is something that we do increase because we can. And so I'm just concerned about the hit that the park impact fee this will take, so I will be voting against this resolution as presented.
Perfect. No other discussion? Because I'm going to give my 2 cents before I call for the question. So I, too, am going to be in favor of the way we did this. I don't want to add, even at $50, any more money to the cost of development. If you talk with the Kitsap Builders Association, it costs more than $113,000 in Kitsap County today before you buy one piece of wood or put any shovel in the ground. And we already have a housing shortage. So even at $50, I don't want to move forward with making it any pricier for our developers, because that is in turn going to get turned over to the people buying a house here in our city. So I am going to be in favor of this motion. So with that, I will call for the question. All those in favor of adoption of an ordinance adopting a new section, you can read the code to the Port Orchard Municipal Code, adding a new definition for a bedroom and adjusting the park impact fees, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
And the motion carries. Thank you. Item 7B, ratification of the mayor's signature of change order number 1 to purchase order number 65-24 for the repair of Marine 7. It says this is Chief Brown, but I'm going to guess he's not here this evening. He is. Excellent. Chief Brown, it's all yours.
Hello, let me get to that. I'm sorry, I'm recovering from norovirus, so I'm a little bit behind. If I can get zoomed up here. Okay, thank you. On December 12th, 2024, the police department received approval to repair its vessel Marine 7. Safe Boats International, the original manufacturer of the vessel, was contracted following the city's procurement process. Repairs are necessary to ensure the vessel remain fully operational and to provide for safe and efficient law enforcement and search and rescue functions. The original cost for the repairs totaled $27,151.92. In mid-January, the police department was advised by Safe Boats that during the repair process, an additional area of concern was found. The engine supercharger was failing, and its replacement was necessary to prevent catastrophic failure of the engine to ensure public safety and to extend the life of the aging Marine 7. A quote for additional repair was requested on February 14, 2025, and the cost for this repair totaled $10,134.34. City procurement policy requires that any change orders that exceed 10% of the original contract amount must receive council approval. So, staff recommends the City Council authorize the mayor to approve change order number 1 to purchase order number 065-24 for the repair of Marine 7 to increase the total repair cost by $10,134.35 for a total cost of $37,286.27 with the applicable taxes included. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Chineri.
Mr. Mayor, Pro Temp, I move to authorize the ratification of the mayor's signature approving change order number 1 to purchase order number 065-24 for the repair of Marine 7 to increase the total repair cost by $10,134.35 for a total cost of $37,286.27, including taxes.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Chineri, a second from Councilmember Rosa Pepe. Any discussion? Councilmember Rosa Pepe.
It's not about this, so a little bit of a tangent if you'll bear with me.
I'll give you a little attitude.
Thank you. We've had this same situation come up at Kitsap Transit Board recently where the mayor, we're bringing it after the fact because it's only a 10% that the mayor can apply, even though he has, I believe, $100,000 that he can approve on a contract. I'm certainly not saying we need to address that tonight, but I think on some of these smaller issues, we may need to take a look at our municipal code and whether we want to change that. So we're not trying to do things after the fact and it looks a little, I don't mean to use the word shifty, but it looks a little bit underhanded a little bit. So just food for thought if we could kind of pass that down the road, Charlie. I hope I was able to say that, that you were able to capture that. Thank you.
I think it's good to put it out and
Councilmember
then, I think it's good to put it out and then even if it goes to council and then also people in the audience can hear what it's about instead of not.
Okay, because I believe it's the percentage of change that's causing this issue, not the dollar amount, and so it would absolutely require our ratification. So hearing no other discussion, you're voting on the ratification of the mayor's signature of change order number 1 to purchase order number 65-24 for the repair of Marine 7. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Chief Brown. I hope you feel better.
Thanks, sir.
Business item 7C, approval of the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Amendment Docket. Director Bond, this is you.
Yes, pursuant to the Comprehensive Plan Amendment Regulations in the Port Orchard Municipal Code, Section 20.04, the Community Development Director has compiled a recommended comprehensive plan amendment docket based on the preliminary evaluation of the need, urgency, and appropriateness of the suggested amendments, as well as the staff and budget availability to accommodate the public review process. Comprehensive plan amendment applications were required to be completed and submitted to the department by 4 p.m. on January 31st of this year to be considered during this year's amendment process. The department initiated applications for a set of text amendments consistent with Port Orchard Municipal Code Section 20.040501. And then we also received a text amendment from a private party as well as 2 map amendments. The 3 city-initiated comprehensive plan amendments, we included the Sherman Avenue Stormwater Park Master Plan for adoption by reference, and that's if we're able to complete that plan during this year. We're just putting a placeholder on the docket so that we can include that in the adopted comprehensive plan, which then allows us to apply for grants next year. The second the second update, we have an update to the capital facilities element. We typically update numbers in that element annually to correspond to our latest engineer's estimates for various projects that we are undertaking. And then updates to the transportation improvement program. This is the list of transportation projects that the city is planning. We've identified a handful of corrections and changes in cost, as well as the addition of a few new projects. And so we typically amend that document annually as well. The applicant initiated comprehensive plan text amendment. The developer in McCormick Woods identified a correction in the capital facilities element. There's a number that doesn't match what's in our water system plan, and so we're changing that for consistency. And then we received 2 land use map amendment applications. The Hull Avenue rezone is up on Hull near Sherman Avenue and is proposing to change a property from R2 to R3. I'm told that the applicant might actually withdraw this and pursue a different path forward on this property, but we should leave it on the docket and wait for him to formally withdraw his application. And then the other proposed map amendment is the Southwest Old Clifton Industrial Properties redesignation, and there are 13 fairly small properties located on the far side of a stream that does not have a commercial access to serve those properties. So the owner is asking for those to be redesignated from industrial to medium density residential with a zoning of R3. And so the staff recommendation is to consider the proposed docket and make a motion to approve the docket as presented.
Thank you, Director Bond. Councilmember Chang.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Tempore, I move to approve the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Amendment Agenda pursuant to Port Orchard Municipal Code 20.04.060 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Chang, a second from Councilmember Rosapepe. Discussion. Councilmember Rosapepe.
Just wanted to bring forward that this has gone to land use, and it seems like, you finish the comprehensive plan, you submit it, and then you just go right back into amending it as things come up. So hats off to Nick and his crew for getting the comprehensive plan done, and now it's time to start looking at the amendments as they come in. So this is, I don't mean to say routine, it never is, but it's following the procedure and process.
Councilmember Ward? Nope, sorry. Anybody else? Excellent. Director Bond, correct me if I'm wrong, how many times a year can we amend the comprehensive plan?
So state law allows 1 amendment per year, but you can amend it a second time for very limited circumstances. And so things that relate to budget, if you need to add a project because it's in the budget or change a number in your capital facilities plan, you can do that later in the year. And there's a handful of other, I think there's 4 items listed in the Growth Management Act where there's exceptions to that once per year. But for general map amendments, that's definitely a once a year type thing.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the approval of the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Amendment Docket, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. On to item 7B, adoption of a resolution approving a contract for the Melcher Pump Station Rehabilitation Project. Director Ryan, this is you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and council members. Before you tonight is a resolution that would authorize a contract with General Mechanical for the Melcher Pump Station Rehab Project. The City of Port Orchard identified the need for the Melcher Pump Station Rehabilitation Project as the current pump station has exceeded its useful life. The Pump Station Rehabilitation Project involves removing and replacing a pump booster, pump motor sets, control valves, isolation valves, piping, controls, diesel generator, and electrical components. It includes installing new equipment such as variable frequency drives, power panels, and portable generator connection box. The new diesel generator was ordered ahead of time because of long lead time, and it would be installed by the contractor. The city secured a loan from the Public Works Board for $500,000. After completing the procurement process, the city received and opened 3 sealed bids on January 14th, 2025. The lowest qualified bid was from General Mechanical for $781,822.90. The project, which has a budget of $975,000, is funded through local funds and a $500,000 loan from the Public Works Board. Staff recommends that the City Council approve a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute this contract with General Mechanical. Additionally, I'd like to tell you, before you will come additional contract for contract services during the construction by our design engineering team. So that will be approximately $50,000 that you'll come to see at a future meeting.
50.
That?
Did you say 15 or 50?
Sorry, $50,000 will be the design construction services through the construction of the project. So, any questions?
Thank you, Director Ryan. Councilmember Rosepepe.
Oh, that was still in our budget though, right?
Hold on,
Isn't that
we'll get
correct?
there. Hold on, we'll get there.
sorry.
Councilmember Rosepepe.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with General Mechanical Incorporated for the Melcher Pump Station Rehabilitation Project.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Rosepepe, a second from Councilmember Trenary. Now we can get to that question.
Yes.
Councilmember Fenton.
And I think you answered it. No, that was
Yes.
in our budget.
It's anticipated as part of the budget, yes.
Yes, okay.
That's planned work.
Councilmember Rosepepe.
In fact, that's a good comment, Heidi, because it looks like it's going to be under budget even with the additional drawings. So that's positive and thumbs up right now. See how it goes. I'm an optimist.
Any others? Excellent. I will also call that I don't know if any of you have come to do a reading when they open, as they talked about the unsealed envelopes. I had the opportunity once. Another function of our wonderful city clerk who handles that for us, and they do it right here in front of the public. So just calling that out because she doesn't always get to show off a lot of the functions that she does. So thank you. With no other comments, you will be voting on the adoption of a resolution approving a contract for the Melcher Pump Station Rehabilitation Project. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. And this brings us to our final business item, 7E, approval of the February 11th, 2025 City Council regular meeting minutes. Councilmember Rosepepe.
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Rosepepe, a second from Councilmember Trenary. Don't you all jump at this tonight like we normally do. Make it hard on me. Thank you.
Shook my head.
All those in favor say, do we want any questions or comments?
No, usually somebody sitting in that seat would say that we're going to have one abstention.
Oh.
No, who wasn't at the meeting. That's why it's on.
Okay, I don't have that right in front of me. Who's the abstention this evening?
I believe that was Eric, if I looked at that. Hang on a minute. Let me get to that.
Was that when you were in Arizona?
Yes.
While Rosepepe's looking at that, I'll make a comment.
Okay, go for it.
We don't normally have people in the audience, so it looks like we just vote yes or no on a lot of things. we actually asked a lot of questions throughout the weekend and all day yesterday and whatnot to get a better understanding of what we're dealing with. So just so people understand that. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Warden.
It was Councilmember Warden that was absent.
Thank you. So we will have one abstention from this one. We'll still have a quorum for to be able to answer. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And one abstention, that shall pass. We have no discussion items this evening. Reports of council committees. I know we've had a couple just over the last 2 days. Top of my list here shows Economic Development and Tourism, which I had to be absent for yesterday, so thank you to Councilmember Chang for filling in my stead. Do you have a report for us?
Yes, we just had a few items. The first one was the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance had an industrial land survey. It's over 100 pages, but we got the executive summary of 18 pages. It was basically saying that we don't have enough industrial land in the area. It did talk about the Navy being a very, what's a good word? A willing client for, I think some numbers were like 280,000 square feet, but only for 10 years. So there was discussion about whether that was exciting to the area or would people have concerns once they left. The consensus of the group that was present, and this included people from the Port of Bremerton, the Chamber, and the Port Orchard Waterfront Alliance, was that it was probably a net positive. Let's see, then we heard about a pre-application meeting for a proposed pickleball facility, indoor pickleball facility. There's still details to work out because I don't believe that what they're proposing fits our code.
You had a question on this one.
Okay, the location is actually behind the Sherwin-Williams
That's what I was
building,
wondering. Okay,
which is west of Rite Aid. And Nick had a really good map of that, so that was interesting. Then we had a few good of the order items. One was that there's a new vendor opening in the Port Orchard Market, Good Stuff, hopefully April 5th. They're waiting on their certificate of occupancy. There was the desire to bring the cabaret license discussion to economic development and tourism. We understand, though, that at least DCD is not able to address it until July, unless another department wants to step in and address it with us. And then we had a very brief discussion on, there was a mention of Granicus software that you can sign up for different email lists now, including any agendas for different committee meetings. And then the last item was just a very brief discussion about the cruise issue, which none of the decision makers were at our meeting. So we just sort of listened to some of the concerns and believe that it would be brought up at tonight's meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Chang. I believe there was a meeting earlier this evening for the Utilities Committee.
There was, and I'd like to, I'm not going to steal Dennis's thunder. It was a very positive meeting, and there was a lot of good information about the projects. It was a project overview. So I'm going to let Dennis do a lot of the updating, and I'll leave it at that if that's okay with the members, because I think it was all positive, everything we heard tonight. So I think that when we get around to Dennis, I'd let him go.
Perfect.
I do have an outside one to comment on when you get to outside agencies.
Yep. And Finance Committee meets next week. Transportation, did you guys give a report? Did you guys meet last month?
2 weeks, and yes, we did.
But did you already have one from the last one? Okay, perfect. I didn't remember when that did. Same with land use? Okay, so I think we're good. And then it looks like we've added coffee with council here. Do we have any updates from the last coffee with council or a summary we wanted to provide here this evening?
I didn't bring the summary with me, but I didn't expect that. First time for it, but it was for sure our busiest coffee with council that we've had to date. After last month, it's kind of hit and miss. Some months you have 3 or 4 people, and some months like yesterday or this last weekend you had 14, 15, 16 people show up and numerous different questions and whatnot. And it was terrific. So, yeah, variety of questions, far different than we usually have. But yeah, it was worth it.
Excellent. Okay. Outside,
Well, before you say
you want to
that,
go to council? Or
actually,
copy with council?
Eric sent out an update that was forwarded from Brandy, so it was.
Oh, you received it?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
It was very
I
comprehensive.
know you said that.
No, it was very comprehensive, and again,
Okay.
some items are city-related or county-related.
For sure.
Or not, and so getting them pointed in the right direction, I
Yeah,
think is always
exactly.
good.
I mean, we have questions for like transit related, right? And people think that some people feel that transit isn't really city related, but we sit on transit boards. So I feel it is city related. If we sit on a board for something, we must be a representative for that. So I have no problem listening to questions like that. So, yeah.
Excellent. And for those who haven't been, Coffee with Council is the first Saturday of each month at the Mercantile.
Yep.
At the back of Josephine's there. You'll get a different set of 3 council members because we don't want to create a quorum each first Saturday there. And you can bring any and all comments and questions to your city council. We try and make it more approachable. Outside agencies, Councilmember Rose Pepe.
I just want to bring up from Kitsap Transit, we had a long discussion concerning the modes of transportation supporting the World Cup next year, primarily with ferry and even bus transportation. So next year is going to be here faster than we think, and I know that economic development's looking at the impact on FIFA, and the rest of the county is, and they're expecting quite a economic, what would you say?
Boom.
Yeah, boom from it. So more information to follow, but it's very interesting listening to this right now. Everybody's preparing for it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Councilmember
I
Chang.
have a question for him, and then I have an item. And the question is, was there anything related to Port Orchard specifically? I know they're talking about the south facility, but that's not in the city limits, is it? The south end maintenance facility?
It's over by Retzel, and it's a discussion about how to use the facility and what do they need to do to the facility to upgrade it, both for fueling and for storage. Also, Kitsap Transit continues to look at electric vehicles, and so upgrading the facility to be able to handle that. It's right now the issue is twofold. One is design, and the other is funding.
This is on Retzel behind Red Dog Saloon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Near Mile Hill?
Yep.
Okay, not near
Red
the
Dog.
water. Okay, okay, I know where it is.
And you had another
Yeah, I just
outside
wanted
agency?
to mention that I attended a KCR, Kitsap Community Resources meeting remotely. And as you know, they are an organization that handle lots of different programs. It's actually really hard to describe what their mission is, except they do help generally lower income and the homeless. They talked about there's Mills Crossing, which is in Bremerton. It's a project there. It's there. But they did talk about generally they had lots of requests for rental assistance, and they were not able to meet it. So it's kind of exciting that I know the city has talked about putting some of our 1440 funds, I think it's 1440 or 1404, into rental assistance with KCR administrating. So this is something that hopefully we'll hear more about soon.
Okay. Thank you. Any other outside agency reports? Hearing none, we got item number 10, the report of the mayor. The report of the mayor is that the mayor is not here, so there won't be any of that. Report of our department heads. I'm going to do one a little different. I'd like to start this evening with our friends on Zoom. How about Chief Brown?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, we have completed the second step to our accreditation process, and we're waiting on our on-site. It's a pretty big deal for us. As many of you know, that I work with our WASPIC, which is the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, to assist agencies across the state. So this is our first reaccreditation, after our initial 4 years ago, and we are on track. So I wanted to give a shout out to Deputy Chief Andy Brandon, who is our accreditation manager, and we will have our on-site next week, and I don't anticipate any problems. So I want to give him full credit for making sure that we stayed accredited, which is a big deal. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Chief. Any other directors online this evening? Director Crocker.
I am here.
Excellent.
Yes, sir. First, I just wanted to ask the council, let the council know I sent out an email later this evening, regarding the conclusion of our 2023 audit with the State Auditor's Office. This was a fantastic audit. Again, another clean year, which means that they did not find a finding, there was no management letter issued, and nor were there any exit items. So we had the triple effect of having a complete audit, and they were very impressed. They were a great group to work with, and so very pleased at another year of a clean audit and what that means for the city of Port Orchard. So appreciate all the hard work of the finance team as well as my other departments who, we work to have strong internal controls and policies in place to follow, and that then we allow the SAO to come in and test all those things. So it's a great result again for the city. So happy to report that tonight.
Thank you, Director Crocker.
Thank you.
Any other directors online this evening? Ms. Wallace. Okay. You have a comment?
Just a comment. I think to a certain degree that Noah was understating the audit results. It was, I sat in on it, and I know Mark did too. It was almost a love fest about how good the audit was. And Noah sent a note to us earlier today saying this is the 4th consecutive fiscal year we've had a clean audit. Additionally, since I was the only prior committee member that was still here, I had met with the member of the audit team, and he had asked me, what are your concerns? And so I didn't hide anything. It was like, these are my concerns that I've heard from our council members. Go forth and take a look. And as you can see with clean audit, they're very comfortable with what we're doing and how we're doing it. So my hat's off to all staff and NOAA staff in this. So it's a good item to be excited about, and it speaks well of the city.
It does. Councilmember Chenary.
I'd just like to add to that I want to call out Rebecca, who's a key member of NOAA's team. She was also singled out as doing an excellent job by the audit team from the state of Washington. Really impressed that we've been 3+ years of having no audit issues, exit concerns at all from the auditors. Really makes you feel good that we're using our city funds wisely and correctly. So thank you again, Noah and the finance team.
Yeah, and I'll just pile on, being in banking most of my career, audits I am very familiar with, and it does take everyone, from Noah's team to people who aren't even in finance that have to be trained, because you fill out an expense report, you go on a training, there's so many different things that's impacted. So it takes a whole team. So I know Noah shares that with the rest of the directors as well, because it takes an entire city and all 100 and I know it's just under 110 employees that we have. So thank you all for your great work. Ms. Wallace, a report from the Clerk's Department.
Just a little kudos to the council members and the Coffee with the Council event that you guys hold. I received a call last week sometime from a couple administrative staff from the City of Bellevue's City Council. They got wind that you guys were holding a Coffee with the Council and kind of wanted to know what it was about and what the process is and how many council members can attend and what happens if, and all of the questions that us clerks get concerned about, and possibly city attorney. So I answered those questions, and they're super excited, and so they are interested and intrigued by Coffee with the Council and may have it in their area as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting, so I thought I'd share that with you, and that's all I have.
Did you give them Eric's number? It's really his credit. It's his idea.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Deputy Chief, we got from the chief. I'm sure you're good. Nothing to add? All right, thank you. Ms. Archer.
Thank you. Very briefly, we had on February 27th, an opinion was issued by the state Supreme Court on a case we'd been following for a while, Doe's versus City of Seattle, Seattle PD, with regards to the Public Records Act. And it was very useful instruction from the Supreme Court, both about who can sue. In that case, the plaintiffs were seeking to sue anonymously, and the court reasserted that you need to identify yourself in order to have a cause of action. And then also just reasserted that agencies are able to utilize third-party notice as a means to ensure that all interested parties can assert rights associated with public records. I believe I flagged for you that the model rules under the state law are currently under review, and one of them that is potentially changing is exactly that, which is third-party notice may not be used except where certain legal thresholds are met. So hopefully this direction from the court indicates to the Attorney General's office that the model rules should continue to reflect that status quo. So that was a bit of good news. Very briefly on a legislative update, I know you are all following a lot very closely, but tomorrow is the initial bill cutoff date when bills will be dead. They're not dead until the end of the session, but they're dead if they don't get out of committee. A couple that we're monitoring and AWC is monitoring, just one, the House Bill, 1380, with regards to our ability to regulate camping in our public spaces. This would create, based on my legal review of the legislation and AWC, which is part of your legislative team, concur that this would create an unfunded mandate of that would also lead to potential litigation against agencies and further limit our ability to regulate camping in our public spaces in the interest of public safety. So that's one to keep your eye on. It is still live, as is the increase to 3% on the property tax. So we shall see what tomorrow brings. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Archer. For those who are following, the way it works down in Olympia is it has to be out by 5 p.m. tomorrow out of House of Origin, meaning then they swap the bills and then they reconcile. So something coming out of the House then needs to pass the Senate and vice versa, and that cutoff is tomorrow at 5. So there will be a flurry of events going on, and you can follow that on TVW. Online, if you're not doing so already. I highly encourage that you do so. There's a lot of bills. I mean, I don't have the count off the top of my head with me at this moment, but 300 to 400 bills coming out of each house. So that's a lot to follow. And our job will be to make sure that we're putting in our comments as they go to the second house to come out of. So thank you, Ms. Archer. Mr. Bond.
Yeah, a couple of announcements. First of all, we adopted our comprehensive plan back in December, and now the appeal period has lapsed on that ordinance, and so we made it through the appeal period without any appeals on our plan, so that's good news. The PSRC has also recommended certification of our plan, and so that has advanced through the Land Use Policy Board and has to go on the consent agenda with the Transportation Policy Board before the full board can certify our plan, but we were one of a batch of 5 that were just taken through the review and approval process. So we're looking good on comprehensive planning. And then I'm going to share my screen here. We have updated the website on our pre-approved ADU plans, and this is the program through KRCC where we're partnering with Bremerton, Bainbridge Island, Paulsbo, and Kitsap County to get at least initially 4 plans that anyone in the county would be able to use free of charge. They do have to actually pay for permits, but they don't have to pay an architect to design these buildings. And so on the website now we have renderings of each of the 4 units, along with, if you click on these, you can actually go see the floor plans for each of these, and It will show you the layout of the units. These are not the architectural construction plans, but they are plans that at least let residents know what how these are configured and how they could be set up. I'm very hopeful that in early April these will be ready to go live, and we will start doing some additional outreach. I plan on taking this to the farmers market to educate the public about it, and we will be ready to go here early this spring on the pre-approved ADU program. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Director Bond. I think the KBA even has some numbers put aside to say how inexpensive it can be to add that ADU to your property. So looking forward to seeing a lot of activity that way. Director Ryan.
Good evening again. Thank you. Before I'll talk about utilities, I will give you an update. If you recall, on February 25th, we had a canceled City Council meeting because of a windstorm. City of Port Orchard has sustained winds of 45 miles an hour. During the storm, both public work crews and police department were out in the mix from the early morning hours to address significant challenges posed by the power outages and the debris that was coming down on the roads. The storm knocked out power to all of our sewer stations and all of our well facilities. So every well, every sewer pump station in the city of Port Orchard was running on diesel generators for, in some cases, over 30 hours. So crews constantly were tending the tanks all through the night. We had crews staffed. I'm bringing this up because we'll talk about the Marina Pump Station in a moment, and that was around the clock, constant, everything going on there with the bypass pumping. We didn't lose a drop of anything, and our reservoirs were full, and we were able to provide water to all of our customers. I do want to report that we did activate the EOC, their Emergency Operations Center. Chief Brown was the chief of the EOC. Deputy Chief was also present, and then we had a few other supporting staff. We worked closely with coordination with Emergency Services Dispatch, also with Puget Sound Energy. Current updates, we offered assistance if there was areas that they were inaccessible with debris clearance. That was well coordinated. There was things that came out of it that we see room where we can grow. We did recognize that this was a one-day event. If it was a multi-day event, we need to plan bigger. So it was a good exercise in all, and I'm happy to report our only incident that was reported from staff throughout the city was we lost a mirror on one of our trucks from a falling tree limb. So that's a good event for us. So I will go ahead and share my screen and talk about just our utilities. I'm just going to focus briefly on the Marina Pump Station, if I can pull it up. And so I reported tonight that the pump station it's not working for me, so maybe it is.
While you're looking for that.
Oh, yep.
I just wanted to add that a couple of us live in the same community, and our community out in the McCormick area, that side of town, wanted to thank your staff for all the hard work. It was really appreciated, getting all the branches off the road and all that jazz. So thank you very much. It's appreciated.
I will for sure pass that on. I appreciate that. And McCormick they were significantly hit. Old Clifton had multiple trees hung up in power lines, snap power lines. There was limited access. In the EOC, we were reporting that back to emergency dispatch. So staff is always prepared to support PSE if they had to go in there, if there was life, medical, any kind of emergency. We would have coordinated with them on how to get people out of there if it came to it. So I lost my computer. I'm not sure what happened. It must be updating. But I did report tonight that the Marina Lift Station, we just finished our 17th month of construction. So I signed the recent pay estimate, and it said 70% complete. So that's a big milestone for us. We are bringing that online. It's not complete, but we will go off of bypass, and that pump station will be operation anticipating in this coming June. So we're still marching towards the September completion for the project. We don't see any delays. That's a big milestone, and there's some great pictures. We're going to get them up on our website. That just kind of shows what the infrastructure down there and how significant it is for a city like Port Orchard. So things are moving well, and there's some design factors that we're going to share in that as well, as far as all you see now is a generator out there. There's a green screen going in front of that that's going to hide that in plain sight. There's some decorative artistic siding that's going on the pump station itself that's going to tie in with the future plans for the plaza and the community event center. So we'll get those pictures updated for everybody to see. So thank you. Oh, can I share that? Thank you. I had something I want to share with council at last meeting. And this is just, we had exhibits that we were going to print for you, and I apologize, I forgot about this one. So this is the same design that you've seen for Bethel. This is Salmonberry to Blueberry. This is just the right-of-way plan. So this is the next phase that the city's right-of-way agent will start negotiating with property owners. What you see in the red is the actual right-of-way that we will have to purchase. What you see in green is the temporary right-of-way that during construction we'll have to have access to that property. So I wanted to make you aware because the city will start that process. The city's right-of-way agent will start that process. What's that?
Contractor.
It's contractor. It's part of the professional services contract with our consultant, which is, there are two Patricks. Yes, Shea Carjul. So they contract with a right-of-way agent, and then they'll start that process.
Dennis, a question on that. So that's the, Blueberry, is that one's going to get done first?
No, this is the entire project. It's just broken up because it's a roll plot. So it's the whole project you should see here in the exhibit. But green, we're going to turn it back to the owners after construction, but there's grading, there's matching, paving a parking lot. That's what we call temporary right-of-way. So everything in red is actual acquisition that the city will look to need for this project. Could you send that to us? Yes, we will get you a copy of that. Thank you. Thank you.
Is that it, Director Ryan? Thank you. That brings us to the end of our department heads report and our second citizen comment period. Those wishing to address City Council may come forward, identify yourselves, and get 3 minutes. I'll again remind you that the City Clerk will have the light ready for you, should you need it.
Hi, my name is Tawny Cowan, and I run a Facebook group called Port Orchard Politics. The goal of why I started that is because I want to get our community involved. So I love the Coffee with Council. I'm going to try to get more people out to all these events that you're doing. I might show up and ask you guys questions. I do have my press pass, and I want to get as much information about what you guys do to our citizens so that they can become more involved, so you can hear more from them. You know, I mean, a lot of people are like me. We vote, and then we go about our lives, and then we don't do anything, you know, until it's time to vote again. But I feel like it's more important to just start getting people involved. We have a good community, and I just kind of want to bring people together. Instead of there being a friction of a right or a left, Port Orchard's just Port Orchard. We're everybody, right? And so I just wanted to introduce myself, tell you guys about the Facebook group. We are developing a nice sandbox so you can come and people can talk to you, and we're not gonna let it be a shouting match or anything like that, you know, just kind of have some respectful dialogue. But also I'm interested in learning, you know, what a council member does and what your job is going to do. And so I might try to get meetings with you guys and try to find out what you do so I can bring it to the citizens so that people can be more civically involved. And so anyway, I just wanted to tell you guys about it. It's Port Orchard Politics on Facebook.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address City Council may approach. Ms. Morgan.
Hi, Sylvia Morgan again. I just wanted to tag onto something that some other community members expressed regarding the cruise car show and the loss of that event this year. And I understand, or my understanding is that it's not necessarily up to the City Council to make those decisions. It's really a negotiation between the Saints Car Club and the city administrators. And I also understand that safety is important, so there's that. But I want you to know that this will have a really negative impact on our small businesses downtown. And just to put that in perspective for you, for Peninsula Bevco specifically, that day, the Cruise Car Show Day, is the second highest grossing sales day in our 7-year history. So it's a big, big volume driver for us, and we'll lose that. But not only that, we will lose the opportunity to showcase what we do to other people coming from Gig Harbor and Tacoma and all around the state. We have gained customers that come back to see us from Tacoma because they came to the Cruise Car Show. So I would really hope that as city council members, though it's not your job to decide, that you would urge those two parties, the Saints Car Club and the city administration, to come to a resolution so that we can keep this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Anyone else wishing to address City Council on any topic? Come forward and identify yourself. If you are online, I'll get to you here in just a moment, Mr. Murphy. If you are online, please make sure you raise your hand. But we do have one more here in person. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sean Murphy. Something was brought to my attention actually at the county commissioners meeting last night that I'm not sure if it is on your radar or if it is, what it is that you're doing about it. Public safety is important, but also so is our officer safety for these men and women who are putting their lives on the line for our safety. I know that the County Sheriff's Department is dealing with an issue with the safety of the Sig Sauer sidearms that they have, to where, you know, a lot of us talk about the fact that I can set my firearm down and it will not shoot itself. Unfortunately, right now that Sig Sauer is having an issue there, and I know our county is looking at replacing its sidearms for the protection of our officers and our citizens. Is this the same sidearm that is being used by our city police? And if so, is there a plan to replace that? That's my question there, and I know you don't respond a lot to the questions, but it's a concern that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else in person coming up, Ms. Wallace, anybody on the line wishing to address council? Robert, you have 3 minutes.
Can you guys hear me?
We can, thank you.
Okay, good. It's always awkward on the Zoom. Anyway, first off, I'd just like to thank Mayor Pro Tem Tim for speaking up about the impact fees. Actually, I always find it a little disingenuous when people suggest that is paid by developers, when ultimately they just get passed on to the consumer and it adds to the cost of construction and housing costs. So I appreciate you recognizing that. It's kind of important that gets said. Going back to the park impact fee, not so much the switch. I think the switch seems pretty straightforward. However, I am curious, since we've implemented the park impact fee, how is that being used and where are the percentages of that going? How much is being used for personnel to maintain the parks? How much is being used to maintain and update the parks we have? And how much of that is being allocated for new construction? That is my question on the park impact fees. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I'm going to assume, because I know this in community, that's Robert McGee, just making sure we get that for clarity. Thank you.
Yep, sorry about that.
That's all right.
I'll email reply.
Anyone else online raising their hand wishing to address City Council this evening? Hearing none, I'm going to close the second citizen comment period. Good of the order. Councilmember Fenton.
Yeah, for our economic development and tourism, I did forget, I wanted to kind of piggyback just on that. I did ask a question about having city council be in on the meetings coming up, the new ones for cruise. We don't have a vote on it, but like I was in the dark. I didn't know anything until social media came out. And I think it is important for us to be involved in that.
Anybody else for good of the order? Councilmember Rose Pepe.
I've got a couple items. Because of the storm that we had with the wind, we're going to take a look at land use over a period of time, looking at our infrastructure and any changes that we need to make regarding trees. We may need to take some down, replant a different type, but we're going to be looking at our infrastructure. We've got in our code burying utility lines, but we have a lot of lines that are above ground, and it'll be be a work in progress, but I want to let you know we'll be taking a look at that. So that's one. We've talked about coffee at council, moving to the farmer's market. When the farmer's market's open, I didn't know when we were going to take a look at doing that. So just something to think about for a future meeting to discuss.
When it warms up. we'll chat about it. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, we need to, think about that so we, can let public know and also our own staff know. Don't forget your F1 filing, please. It is April 15th, and it comes faster than you remember. So F1 needs to be filed. And last but not least, Eric and I attended a McCormick Woods HOA meeting. There was about 10 people there. Brandy sent out the notes from that if you have any questions. One of the items that came up was the exit, using the emergency exit that goes on to Old Clifton. The fire chief has sent information. So we're going to get the HOA and the fire chief together and hopefully get a key. So in case of an emergency, we'll be able to use that exit in case. That's all I have, and thank you very much. Oh, one last thing. For everybody where we were talking about, Eric mentioned about the fact that, we have the material, we read it, just don't vote yes and no. That's available to everybody usually by Friday afternoon on our website. You can see what the agenda is and the associated documents to go with us, so always feel free. So, thanks.
Thank you to the land use for looking at that. For those of us who were able to get out that morning, what a mess we had out there, and it made me rethink that we need to look at maybe retaining some of these trees in some of these places and what that code may be causing in some of these incidents. So thank you. Councilmember Chang.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Jay for his report and mentioning infrastructure, especially for us downtown. We wonder why Bremerton is still lit and we're not. And then we go and see the PSC map and see Gig Harbor's lit. And it's like, where are they getting their power? Why is ours always impacted? And I know the transmission lines are probably, but we do wonder, like, why isn't there more redundancy? Why don't we have another line from Gorse, or maybe one even to Bremerton? So thank you for looking at that.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will use my quick few minutes to say thank you to all city staff for being flexible. Some of you stayed home. We didn't have all the power we needed here. Thank you for Dennis and his team. Just really cleaning up. I know that was a big of it where we saw it smack you in the face, right? Some of these trees that were out there and the speed at which your team was able to get some of this done was pretty impressive. So thank you. Hard to think that many of us were out of power for 48 hours or more. And internet. I think we at my house were out of internet more than 72 hours. So
that's the most devastating part of all of it.
It is, right? Because what good is electricity if you have no internet? So there's that. I also want to thank all those who came out to speak to council this evening for the various input for us. That does not go unheard. You'll be hearing from some of us. And know that while we don't make that decision, we do talk with our mayor and have those impacts. We also talk with other members of our community. So we're hoping to get through. I know we've talked to, several members have talked to past presidents of the car crews and whatnot. So we do hope that we can come to resolution before that time comes. And maybe we will see an application for a special event in the future. So hearing that is the good of the order. Executive session. We're going to have an executive session this evening. Nope.
We are not.
We are not. Okay.
Can I ask one?
That was a placeholder.
We did not have one on the schedule. Was there?
Nope.
They always put it as a
Yeah, it's just listed as a May, and then we triggered if we needed one.
Perfect.
There's nothing on the schedule.
Yep. Okay. That's all right. It was on there. I was going to go for that. Hearing nothing else, that leads to our adjournment. I will call this meeting closed.
Why aren't we gonna
Recording stopped.